Hi, it's me again. I'm back, and we're going to continue with marriage. And I wanted to start with talking about three preconditions to actually, hopefully, saving your marriage. The first precondition is to take into consideration that maybe, just maybe, if you're having issues, then you are also playing a role in those issues. It could simply be responding in the wrong way. That's not effective and not bringing the best back from your spouse. It could simply be that, not that what they're doing is your problem. It is what's your problem is your response. And so it could be that you're playing a role in it. Another thing is we have to recognize that we don't control anybody. And so when you try to control your husband, it's just not going to work. It'll temporarily seem like it's working, but it's not going to work. As humans, we innately come to a point where we rebel. We don't want anyone controlling us, and that's male or female. We do something that is a rebellion against control. And so we have to be sure to understand that we cannot control our spouse, but we can influence them greatly. And it's all based on how we operate within the confines of our marriage. We can influence good behavior. The third thing is that we have to become aware that our marriage is really a spiritual act, or should be, if is a big word, if it's ordained of God. And if your marriage has been ordained of God, then it was meant to be. You know how you meet somebody and you know it was meant to be. Like me and my husband, we met each other, and even though it wasn't the best of circumstances, we knew we were meant to be. And so we rode the challenges until we discovered what that was all about. Being in a marriage where you spiritually connect with one another in such a way that you're really drawn to each other without one single word being spoken, then you know that, number one, you cannot treat your marriage as if it was a flesh decision, because it wasn't. It was, in that case, once there is a spiritual connection, there is a holy act that is in place. And once you marry and solidify your union, you have gone through a holy act, and you have to hold in value your marriage as just that. It's very important. It kind of helps you work your way through some issues if you can honor your marriage as being more than just a piece of paper, or more than just, I thought he was cute, or I thought she was fine. She was a fine girl, or whatever. It is more than that. And so if we could grasp that, then we would begin to value what is holy. But I want to bring up some things. I want us to consider some things. If we can entertain the idea that neither of us are perfect, but we can be perfect for one another. But let's start by asking some questions. Within the marriage, you see yourself having problems in some familiar areas and stuff like that. And ask yourself, do I carry old wounds with me? Did I bring old wounds into my marriage, and now the marriage is suffering the consequences of that? Because your spouse is not responsible for what someone else did to you, but they don't get a fair chance to prove that they would not do that to you if you bring those old wounds in, and then something they do look like it or similar to it, but it's not it. But you're so wounded until they pay the price for what someone else has done to you. And you have to think, am I operating in fear? And if I'm operating in fear, why am I entertaining this unhealthy emotion in my marriage when my spouse has given me nothing to be afraid of? And then have I blamed my spouse for things that are really things that I'm guilty of? And I'm imposing them on them and punishing them for that? Or am I allowing myself to be so deceived with the things of this world until we we find ourselves moving away from what is truth when it comes to our marriage and our spouse. And then, am I willing to believe that change is possible? You have to understand you cannot change anyone on your own, but you can, again, influence your spouse to the point that they want to make change to make you happy, and or to make you comfortable, or to make you feel secure. But that comes not through demands, it comes through influence. And then, am I walking in a close relationship with my Heavenly Father, too? That is really important. I know that some of us are of different faiths or religions or whatever, but I can only go with what I believe in. And those that can receive that, amen. Or have I relegated my my spouse to a backseat position because I want to control things? Has that happened? Or do I even believe that a good marriage is possible? Because if you don't even believe it, then you that's a recipe for fear and insecurity and anger and resentment and all of that, because you don't believe you're going to have what you desire anyway. But you have to let go of those lies so that you can embrace truth. It's time to stop blaming and assessing your accurate contribution to the damage and your contribution to the healing of your marriage. You have to give yourself permission. And then you have to spend some time really meditating on what you want out of your marriage, what you desire, what you think was ordained to happen, what you feel was ordained to be. And you have to be in agreement with what that is. So even though you're in a challenge, you're both striving to go in the same direction. It's hard to come to an agreement when you're pulling against each other. But if you can start, even if you don't know how to do it, if you can just agree on what your effort is going to be, then you already start winning. For every action in a marriage, there is a reaction. That's in any relationship. Where there's an action, there is a reaction. Sometimes equal, sometimes opposite. It just all depends on the timing. According to love, the issue of love, love produces fruit. So it's kind of like having an orange. If you plant the seeds out of an orange, you get more than one tree, and you definitely get more than one fruit. It's the same. If you can plant love into your marriage, you'll get the fruit of that marriage, the enjoyment, the nourishment, emotional and spiritual, and because it's a spiritual act, you get the nourishment that you need in order to bring about a peace and in order to bring about a pleasure that you should get out of your marriage. When you work to develop self-control, because that's what it's really all about, having some self-control, the love will also produce some self-control if there's true love. But when you think about that, as we know that fruit comes from seeds, love produces its own seeds too, and it flourishes and it multiplies. The idea is this: imagine yourself dancing with your spouse. You got to get in rhythm with each other, is what I'm getting ready to say. You all have to get in rhythm with each other. Just think of it as a dance. If you can close your eyes and see yourself dancing with your spouse, if they're not there with you, if they are, you all do it together, or even dance with each other during this part. When you're dancing with each other and one is going one way and the other one's going a different way, you collide. You make moves and your partner follows. That's how you get a smooth dance. You make a move, and every move you make, your spouse follows. When you have this interaction, it is amazing. You'd be surprised. One motion follows another. Taken together, Taken together, these motions create a choreography of dance. And you have to think of your relationship as sometimes like that. It's like a dance. We've got to get in step with each other. And some dances can be wonderful. Some dances are romantic. Some dances are innovative or creative and fluid. And then other dances are jerky and tense and crushing and out of step, body slamming and embarrassing. Obviously, the latter is the dance you don't want to do. So how do you change the dance though? If you're having these colliding dances, you're colliding and causing friction, and you can't seem to get in step with each other, how do you change the dance? By changing your step. It feels awkward at first because it's something you're not really familiar with because you're so busy battling, and you've been battling sometimes for years. And so you're out of step and you don't know how to get in step again. And so it feels tense and terribly uncomfortable because now you become unfamiliar with the smooth rhythmic dance that you did when you met. But here's your hope. By changing your step in the dance will change if you don't go back to the old way. Don't go back to the colliding dance, but try and get in rhythm with one another. And after a while, even though it feels awkward because you've been doing it wrong for so long, it may feel awkward, but once you get in step with one another, you will begin to enjoy the dance. Notice, I didn't say your action and reaction determines your partner's actions. I said they influence. I said they influence. Influence, that word, I really want to get that set in there. But when you firmly practice a new step, you have more influence than you realize. If you can get in step with your spouse, the influence that comes into that relationship, that dance, that movement that you have in your marriage, it will become more enjoyable, smoother, gliding. Keep up. Your spouse has a free will and can use it how they please. Their influence, they can use it however they please. That's the scary part in a relationship. We join in a holy union with someone over whom we don't have ultimate control. But think about the dance again. Are we influencing the steps that we're taking in our marriage, or are we continuing to collide? I'm going to stop here, and I thought I could cover everything tonight, but I think I may have to do one more video. And I just want to leave some things that maybe you can use, and what you can't use, you just set aside. It's kind of like eating chicken. You eat the meat and throw away the bones. It doesn't make the bones any less part of the chicken. It's just not as enjoyable as the meat. So do the same thing with this. If I can share something with you that you can actually use, eat the meat and just throw away the bones. The part that you can't use, set it aside, but take what you can. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for responding. Thank you for all of the things that you have done. And thank you for subscribing most of all. I'm enjoying this. I hope you are. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Thank you. Have a good night. Good afternoon. Good morning. Bye-bye.